The only difference between More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers and Psycho-Pass is that Akane Tsunemori recognizes that being the ideal of a system doesn't mean that system shouldn't be dismantled. For the initiated and uninitiated alike, I can't control who see these. More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers, which I will refer to here on out as this show, is the ultimate fake dating AU. In countless fake dating stories, there's an amatonormative social pressure on the main characters to pretend to be dating, which then results in real dating later. The implication is that such pressures are ultimately good because they result in love and happily ever after. In this show, there's an amatonormativity class, that's class as in textbooks and lectures, which serves also as monogamy and straight class, which literally labels people as failures if they can't maintain society's idea of what a straight, monogamous, amorous relationship should look like. The students do not question the hyper-surveillance required of such a system, they only complain when they cannot be paired with the one other person they have affection for. This is demonstrative of how deeply ingrained such concepts are even by high school. Of course, this is no surprise to people living in the real world, where straightness, monogamy, and amatonormativity are bombarded on infants on the regular, but it doesn't make it any less upsetting to see in fiction. And like in reality, the kids in the show are both pressured to enter monogamous romantic pairings, and they have their sexualities harshly restricted whenever possible. You see, during straight monogamous amatonormativity class, students who are paired up and forced to live in high-tech surveillance houses are forbidden from sexing. That's sexing like doing sex, not sexting, although they're probably forbidden from doing that also. The way this is enforced is, of course, that there are cameras and microphones in literally every room. Why not? These serve the added purpose of recording any traditionally romantic activities or acts, which are counter to traditional romance, and these decrease and increase students' grades disrespectively. What is considered sex is not made explicit in the show, but considering the very concept of the class, it is likely limited to a boy penetrating a girl in the expected heterosexual place. I say this not only because I hate the system as presented, but because lots of other sexual contact is made by the characters in the show that is not flagged by the system, like boob touching, lying on top of each other, putting legs between each other's legs. But speaking of things that the system doesn't flag, I mentioned earlier the surveillance devices that track acts of romance. But here's the thing, it can't tell genuine from faked romantic gestures. This means that students can fake it to get good grades, which you'd think would be an oversight, but no, just wait. There's one more part to the setup I've left out. The grades are calculated throughout the entire semester and made public. This is to facilitate granting students who get top grades the option of swapping partners. And I know what you're thinking, that gives the high grading students in monogamy class the option to do less monogamy. Isn't that counter to the whole idea? There's a couple more things to consider here. First, the goal of the class is to get kids to act in line with straight amatonormative monogamy. So granting a tiny bit of non-monogamy within school life is a very, very small price to pay for rooting these values into people. Of course, such a courtesy doesn't exist beyond this class. Once the students graduate, the stigma against divorcing one's marriage partner is going to be immense, and no matter how well they pretend to be good at marriage, no one's going to give them a pass on changing who they're legally with. There will still be the pressure to at least pretend to be a happy married couple, though, and that's just what the class teaches. The other thing to consider is a little more sinister. See, in order to reach the top spots, a pair must act like they're a perfect straight monogamous couple, of course, adhering to amatonormativity and all that. What's truly desired by the system here is that in the process of trying to pretend to be a traditionally married couple, the feelings will become genuine, or genuine enough to make students lose interest in changing partners. Moreover, as long as people are acting quote-unquote normal, the system doesn't care about your true feelings. This very thing is the main plot that the show is based around. Jiro has a crush on his childhood friend Shiori. Akari has a crush on popular guy Minami. Jiro and Akari are the ones who get paired up, and likewise Shiori and Minami. The plan then is for Jiro and Akari to pretend to be the best couple ever, but then slowly they fall in love for real, blah blah blah. This is exactly what the system wants. But it doesn't work that way for everyone, obviously. It can't. Most obviously, this is straight monogamous amatonormativity class after all. So another character, Mei, Shiori's best friend, being in love with Shiori can't be accounted for. She doesn't even have the imagined recourse of swapping partners, because naturally only people of the same gender can swap in this system. So do you know what she does instead? She tries to help her friend and crush out to build confidence to confess her love to Jiro. I'm pretty sure it's her own faked married partner who arranges for Mei and Shiori to be alone one time, but Mei foils the plan because she doesn't want to get in the way of the only relationship she can even recognize as being a possibility, that being Shiori and Jiro, sorry. And it's not like Mei's the only lesbian at this school. She gets asked out by another girl who she turns down because her heart is set on Shiori, of course, despite knowing that it can never happen as things are. And it's implied that she kind of gets hit on by other girls pretty often, but she never goes for it. On the straight side, though, Minami has a crush on an older woman, someone who's not in his class, and I'm pretty sure doesn't even go to the school, so he likewise can't swap with anyone. When asked if he would consider swapping, he says no, because the person he actually wants to be with isn't around. And that brings up an even bigger issue with the system, saying that everyone needs to pair up romantically, because say you're a person who's fat, and thus, because of fat phobia, no one wants to date or marry you. Any of the kids in the class could be marginalized in this or any other ways, and so effectively not have the option to swap partners because it has to be a mutual choice. So then, when they're out of school and still pressured to date, it sucks even more. Those who fall through the gaping holes in the system are still required to keep up appearances and play at being in real romantic love with their fake romantic partners, lest they fail the course. Lesbians have to submit to compulsory sexuality, poly people have to submit to monogamy, etc., etc. The fact that people are forced to pass in order to pass the course might be a bit on the nose, but I like obvious stuff like that because it lets me appreciate the art better when I can see what's going on. So, the show puts most of its focus on Akari and Jiro's growing relationship, but it ends on a note that Jiro will have to choose between Shiori and Akari eventually, because these characters are incredibly indecisive. That's where the monogamy part of straight monogamous amatonormativity class comes in, though. If I may go on a tangent, in another queer anime, Kashimashi Girl Meets Girl, the emotional climax is that the main character is polyamorous and loves both his childhood friend and the newer girl in his life, and she is forced to choose one or lose both. In a visual metaphor that made me cry, this choice is likened to trying to grow two flowers in the same pot, and one must be cut so the other can flourish. In that story, the girls the main character is deciding on are not poly themselves, so there is some justification for this tragic choice being thrust upon our heroine. In this show, however, it's unclear whether anyone even considers polycules as a possibility because of the society they were raised in. Of course, this reflects reality, where if people are shown poly relationships in mainstream media or anywhere else, it usually will be misrepresentative and/or put them down in an invalid or lesser to the status quo straight monogamous amatonormative relationships. The system in the show doesn't allow the characters the option of, say, Jiro dating both Shiori and Akari, or for that matter, Shiori dating both Jiro and Mei. Taking a bigger step back from the system's expectations, the reason it's such a driving force for all the characters to end up in romantic couplings at all is that the system devalues friendship and any other relationships to pedestalize romance and specifically marriage as the ultimate relationship. This is amatonormativity for anyone who is confused every other time I've used the word so far. And it's bollocks. It's hard to say what all these characters want out of their relationships when they're so deeply ingrained in straight monogamous amatonormativity that they only really consider things within that rigid system. But it's so easy to imagine them much happier in a world without such a system deciding everything for their lives. In conclusion, More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers is a microcosm and critique of monogamy, amatonormativity, and compulsory heterosexuality to a degree. Eventually, I want to read ahead in the manga and see if May continues to get all the well-written, nuanced scenes, and if the author gives her a happy ending. But for now, that's all.